Lucky Luciano was the father of organized crime here in America.
Before him, mob crime was just crime.
It is 1929 in Staten Island. A battered young gangster pulls himself up from a shallow grave with his throat slashed, but somehow he survives. That boy, born by the name Salvatore Lusania, eventually became the man known to history as Charles Lucky Luciano. His brutal, cunning rise from immigrant poverty to the top of the criminal underworld would forever change organized crime. Born in Sicily and raised on the violent streets of New York City, Luciano was destined to rewrite the rules of the Mafia. In this video, we'll follow his life from a teenage gang leader to the criminal mastermind behind the modern American Mafia. Stay tuned to witness how Luciano outsmarted and outfought the old world crime bosses, built a national crime syndicate, and ultimately faced his downfall and exile. Charles Luciano started life a world away from the crime empire he would build. His family emigrated from Sicily to New York's Lower East Side when he was 8, landing in a rough tenement neighborhood populated by struggling immigrant families. Young Luciano wasted no time adapting to the hard streets. By his early teens, he was already involved in petty theft and extortion. He infamously charged classmates 10 cents a week for protection from ethnic gang beatings when one bold kid named Meyer Lansky refused to pay. Luciano was impressed by his nerve. Rather than fighting, the two boys became friends and partners in crime, forming a lifelong alliance. It was a defining trait of Lucky Luciano's outlook. He cared more about making money than old ethnic grudges, a view that would later help him revolutionize organized crime. Luciano quit school at 14 and took to the streets full-time. He formed his own teen gang and soon fell in with the notorious 5 Points Gang, a breeding ground for future mobsters. Arrests came early and often. At age 18, Luciano spent 6 months in jail for dealing heroin, but nothing seemed to stop his ambition. In fact, his knack for cheating death and dodging the law earned him the nickname Lucky. Whether it was due to surviving close calls or his success at dice games, by the late 1910s, Salvatore Lusania was known on the streets as Lucky Luciano, a young hoodlum with big plans. Fresh out of jail, he teamed up with sharp-minded friends like Lansky and Frank Costello and dove into the booming underworld economy of Prohibition-era New York. The stage was set for Lucky Luciano's meteoric rise. In 1920, the United States outlawed alcohol, and Prohibition opened the floodgates for organized crime. Luciano, barely in his 20s, seized this golden opportunity. He became a leading bootlegger, learning the ropes of high finance and high crime under legendary mentor Arnold Rothstein, the kingpin who tutored Luciano in turning illegal liquor into big business. With Rothstein's backing, Luciano and his partners Costello and Vito Genovese started their own liquor distribution operation, and the profits exploded. By the mid-1920s, Lucky Luciano was grossing millions a year and had muscled his way up to become the right-hand man of Giuseppe "Joe the Boss" Masseria, one of New York's most powerful mafia kingpins. As Masseria's chief lieutenant, Luciano oversaw bootlegging, gambling, prostitution, and narcotics rackets, a vast underworld empire in its own right. He was living large, rubbing elbows with politicians, and flaunting custom-tailored suits that screamed success. But the young mobster's climb was not without danger. and a near-fatal incident soon proved just how lucky he truly was. In October of 1929, Luciano was taught a bloody lesson about the stakes of the criminal underworld. He was grabbed off the streets by rival gangsters, men reportedly working for Salvatore Maranzano, the leader of a competing faction. Lucky was being taken for a so-called one-way ride. Luciano's enemies beat him, stabbed him with an ice pick, slit his throat from ear to ear, and left him for dead on a Staten Island beach. Incredibly, Luciano defied the odds and survived the savage attack, though it left him with a permanent scar and a drooping right eye as a reminder. True to the Mafia code, he never named his attackers. By 1930, New York's Mafia was locked in a deadly power struggle known as the Castellamarese War, pitting Lucky's boss, Joe Masseria, against Sicilian rival Salvatore Maranzano. For nearly 2 years, assassinations and shootouts turned the city streets into a battleground, and the young Luciano watched in frustration as the old-school bosses tore the underworld apart. He and other up-and-coming gangsters known as Young Turks resented the war's disruption of business and the stubborn old-world mindset of the Sicilian Dons. Luciano decided it was time for new leadership. In a secret deal with Maranzano, he agreed to betray Masseria in exchange for peace and a share of the spoils. The betrayal was set in motion on April 15, 1931. On that day, Luciano invited Masseria to lunch at a Coney Island restaurant, and as legend has it, excused himself to the bathroom during a card game. At that moment, Luciano's hitmen, Vito Genovese, Albert Anastasia, Joe Adonis, and Bugsy Siegel, stormed in with guns blazing, executing Joe the Boss and ending the war on Luciano's terms. The hit was so precise that Luciano strolled calmly back to find his boss dead among spilled wine and playing cards. With Masseria eliminated, Maranzano crowned himself the new Capo di Tutti Capi, boss of all bosses, and reorganized the Italian gangs into New York's 5 families, with Luciano installed as one of the family heads. Outwardly, Lucky played the loyal lieutenant, but he quickly concluded that Maranzano was just as greedy and short-sighted as his predecessor. When Luciano learned that Maranzano secretly plotted to kill him next, he moved first and fast. Less than 5 months after Masseria's death on September 10, 1931, Luciano dispatched a team of hitmen to Maranzano's offices in Manhattan. In a stroke of brilliance, the assassins were Jewish gangsters loaned by Meyer Lansky, unfamiliar faces to Maranzano's guards, and they arrived disguised as government agents to disarm the bodyguards. Within minutes, Maranzano was ambushed and brutally stabbed and shot to death in his own office. The reign of the old-school mafia was over, toppled by the very man they had once dismissed. At just 34 years old, Lucky Luciano stood as the most powerful mafioso in America. Luciano wasted no time in reshaping the underworld to his vision. Rather than declare himself the next boss of all bosses, he abolished the position entirely. In its place, Luciano set up a radical new governing body for organized crime, the Commission. Established in late 1931, the Commission was a council of the nation's major crime family bosses, designed to settle disputes and divvy up territories through negotiation instead of all-out war. It was arguably Lucky Luciano's greatest innovation, effectively organizing organized crime into a cohesive national syndicate. The five families of New York, along with powerful mob outfits from Chicago and other cities, all had a seat at the table. Even Jewish mobsters, like Lansky, were given informal representation in this new power-sharing arrangement. Luciano had turned the mafia into something like a board of directors of a corporation, a modern criminal enterprise focused on profit above all. To enforce the commission's decisions, Luciano helped form a ruthless enforcement arm with gangster Louis Lepke Buchalter, the infamous Murder Inc., a gang of contract killers that handled assassinations for the syndicate. By the mid-1930s, Lucky Luciano was at the pinnacle of power. He was the undisputed architect of the American Mafia, having unified the underworld under a profitable peace. But as Luciano would soon learn, ruling the underworld also made him target number one for law enforcement. In 1935, the law finally caught up with Lucky Luciano. Fiery New York Special Prosecutor Thomas E. Dewey zeroed in on Luciano's lucrative vice operations, determined to bring down the man now dubbed Public Enemy Number 1. Dewey's investigators gathered evidence that Luciano was the kingpin of a massive prostitution racket, a call-girl empire spanning hundreds of brothels. The crackdown came swift and hard. In early 1936, Luciano fled New York to hide out in Hot Springs, Arkansas, a notorious mob haven. But even there, he couldn't escape Dewey's dragnets. He was recognized, arrested, and extradited back to New York. At his trial, dozens of prostitutes testified against him, and Dewey himself grilled Luciano on the stand. The verdict was inevitable. In June of 1936, Lucky Luciano was convicted on 62 counts of compulsory prostitution and sentenced to 30 to 50 years in state prison. The king of the underworld was led away in handcuffs, his luck seemingly running out. Yet even behind bars, Luciano's influence lingered. In 1942, with World War II raging, an extraordinary twist of fate gave him a chance to reclaim some power. When the luxury liner SS Normandy mysteriously caught fire and capsized in New York Harbor, U.S. naval intelligence feared enemy sabotage on the docks. Desperate to secure the New York waterfront, government officials struck a secret deal with Luciano. In exchange for protection against further sabotage, the imprisoned mob boss would use his influence with the dock workers' unions, long under mafia control, to safeguard the port. Luciano obliged, and as promised, the wartime sabotage of New York's docks suddenly ceased. After the war, this Operation Underworld collaboration earned Luciano a reward from the very authorities who had jailed him. In 1946, Governor Dewey agreed to commute Luciano's sentence on the condition that he be deported immediately back to Italy. After 9 years in prison, Lucky Luciano walked free, only to be sent into exile in his homeland, permanently barred from setting foot in the United States. Luciano settled in Italy, but exile did little to curb his ambition. In 1946, he secretly traveled to Cuba, determined to remain a player in the global underworld. That December, Luciano hosted a lavish conference of American mob bosses in Havana, a gathering immortalized in mafia lore. Gangsters like Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello flew in to pay tribute to Luciano, delivering suitcases of cash as welcome back gifts. For a moment, It seemed Lucky was positioning himself as an international crime lord. But the good times in Havana didn't last. U.S. authorities, alarmed at Luciano's resurgence, pressured the Cuban government to expel him. In February of 1947, Luciano was put on a plane and sent to Italy once more. He would never return to the Western Hemisphere. For the next decade, Luciano lived under close police watch in Naples. Officially, he was a retired businessman. Unofficially, he was suspected of continuing to orchestrate drug trafficking into the U.S. from afar. The one-time boss of bosses now lived as a deportee. His empire fragmented, but not entirely gone. Despite the pressures of exile and age, Luciano remained a legendary figure, and fate still had one final dramatic scene in store for him. On a winter afternoon in January of 1962, Lucky Luciano's tumultuous life came to an abrupt end in a way even he could not outmaneuver. On January 26, Luciano traveled to Naples Airport to meet an American producer, Martin Gauche, who was interested in making a film about Luciano's life. After years of refusing to tell his story, Lucky had finally agreed to consult on the movie about his rise and fall. As the two men met and discussed script ideas, Luciano did not realize that Italian narcotics agents were tailing him through the airport, preparing to arrest him for an alleged drug smuggling operation. But before the police could make their move, Luciano's luck ran out. He collapsed to the ground, struck by a massive heart attack, and died on the spot at age 64. In a final irony, the legendary gangster exited the world just moments before law enforcement could put him in handcuffs one last time. Luciano's funeral proved just how infamous and revered he had become. 3 days after his death, some 300 people attended a memorial service for him in Naples, Italy. His body was then flown back to New York City, with U.S. government permission, so that the gangster who had been exiled from America could be laid to rest on his adopted soil. He was buried in St. John's Cemetery in Queens, and over 2,000 mourners streamed through the ceremony to pay their respects to the fallen mob boss. In the decades since, Charles Lucky Luciano has solidified his place in underworld history as the father of modern organized crime in America. The FBI itself acknowledged him as the man who essentially organized crime nationwide. By dismantling the old Sicilian power structure and founding the Commission, Luciano paved the way for the American Mafia to operate like a corporation, a legacy that endured long after his death.